Hey, what's up? We're back in the autism corner. Here's some good news for you. Did you know that Linux recently just passed the 5% mark on the global distribution of desktop operating systems? Now, 5%. 5% might be a small number, but you know what that is. It's 1% bigger than last year, and it's a percentage bigger than it was last year and the year before that. So what we can see is that if you look at this graph right here, I'm already fucking stimming in this corner. Okay, it's the autism, dude. You can see right here that there is a small but noticeable upwards trend. And that means that Linux is becoming more popular amongst nerds like me and probably even more people than that. But with that newfound fame comes new people into the community who might not know about the history of Linux. And that's fine, you know, we all gotta learn somewhere. You can't just waltz on into a community and be like, ah yes, I know who Richard Stallman is. Maybe you do, but like that's not a common thing to have happen. And with all those new people come some misconceptions and some getting wrong of the facts. What the fuck did I just say? And so that's what we're doing here today. We're sitting here pacing, walking around, and stimming the fuck out in the autism corner to tell you about a niche third-party like open source operating system that is like pretty cool, I think. Yeah, I wrote down a few notes here in my little handbook of secrets, and that's hopefully gonna keep me on track in this video. Probably not though, good lord. We have three main topics I wanna cover in this video. The first one is that Linux on its own is actually not an operating system. No, Linux in a vacuum is just the kernel of the operating system. Now, some of you might think that this is a big, just like, actually kind of moment, like fucking, like I'm gonna earn some Reddit gold just by making this video. Fucking hate Redditors. There is a reason I am talking about this in the way that I am, and I want to draw a little bit of a comparison. You see this back here? This is a computer. Since you're watching this channel, I'm going to assume you already have at least a little bit of an idea of how a computer is made. You got like processors and RAMs and fucking motherboards, and maybe there's like a graphics thing in there. I don't fucking know. The hardware of a computer is kind of like just big adult Legos, where you kind of just like slot a bunch of things together. The word I'm looking for is components. I don't know why I'm just... The word is components. And much like a modern computer system that we all have experience using, a Linux-based operating system, scratch that, every operating system is made up of a similar component structure. There's shit like the kernel, and then there's the bootloader, and then like the file system, and like a display server. Now the Linux community and the people who develop for this are certainly no strangers to this kind of a concept. You honestly might be kind of familiar with this concept if you hear the term kernel level anti-cheat or something like that. But if you use a Windows or a Mac-based computer system, you don't really think about the components that make up your operating system. The operating system itself is just one part of the entire packaged computer. And I think that is one of the key differences in the approach between something like a Linux or something like a big corporate operating system. On a corpo system, you're not really supposed to think about the components of the operating system. You're not supposed to think about the underlying software because that shit is too complicated. We don't want you thinking about the operating system and the underlying processes that steal your fucking cycles away from us. From you? You have all of these components here that make up an operating system. I'm gonna put a few of them here on screen. But on Linux, the whole point of it is that every single component here has an alternative, and you can switch and change and fuck with every single aspect of it just exactly how you want it. Because hardware don't mean jack shit if there's bad software running on it. There might be exceptions to this rule, because there's always fucking exceptions to the rule, but by and large, in general, all of these components here are free and open source. But what does that mean? Well... Okay, so when I say free and open source, if you don't know what that means, what do you think it means? Comment down below, and while you're down there, join my memberships. I had to shill it at some point in this video. The word free conjures up a lot of mental images, and To an extent, those mental images that you might have kind of apply to Linux. Because yes, it is true that for the most part, Linux distributions and different flavors of Linux are free, as in you don't have to pay for them. That doesn't mean you shouldn't, though. You probably should throw a few bucks over at Linux developers and kernel maintainers and distro maintainers and all that shit. God knows they need the money, especially in this fucking economy. Good lord. But no, free in this case, in free and open source, basically means it's like publicly available. You can just go on GitHub and just go and find the Linux kernel and just click a folder and start clicking on files, and you can just read all the code. Like, it's just right there. There's nothing stopping you from just reading it, copying it, pasting it, doing whatever. As long as you're not like trying to claim that you wrote it or some fucking horseshit about that. But no, you wouldn't lie. Human beings don't lie.
Boo! Sudden transition! Okay, hi, hello. It's me from the editing room. I was working on this video, and there were a few things that I didn't talk about in the free and open source section of this video that I kind of want to talk about here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. It's going to be jarring. Sorry, there's really not much I can do. The biggest thing that I missed is that the whole free and open source model of Linux and all the distros and all the stuff that is there in this community, it vastly changes the philosophy of the community. So if you're using something like a Mac OS or a Windows, you're kind of just forced to be beholden to whatever the company wants you to believe or wants you to use or yada yada yada. Take, for example, the web browser thing with Microsoft Edge. Microsoft really fucking wants you to use Microsoft Edge, but you don't have to, right? And so you have a community of people who are like even more in tune with the fact that like, oh, I can just build this myself. I can just do it myself. You know that feeling when you're just starting to get into PC gaming and you're like, oh, I can just build the computer myself. I can put things together myself. I can, make this cheaper. I can look for deals. I can look for weird niche specific things that I want, and I can slot them together just the way that I want. I can build my setup just exactly the way that I want. It's all of that, but with the software of the computer. And I know that software like sounds scary, and I know that like, oh, I don't know how to code. Motherfucker, I don't know how to code. I have never coded once. I failed all of the coding classes I've taken. I don't need to write in fucking C# or whatever to use my Linux box or do any of the stuff that I do here. But circling back around to the whole do-it-yourself thing, the fact that I'm typing in codes and I'm understanding a little bit better of how, all of the software stuff works, it makes coding much less scary. So everything is free and open, and you can just kind of look at it and redistribute it and change it and do whatever. It all just sort of feeds back into the DIY mentality that is the Linux community. It kind of reminds me of the maker community, right? Or people like Bringus Studios, or like Alan Pan, or fucking Backyard Scientist, like any of the science boys. It's like, hey, there's this tool that I really want, and no one has made it yet. I'm just gonna do it myself. And then part of the ethos of the community is whatever you learn and whatever you create, you make that available to everyone else around you, so that they can learn and that they can make things themselves, and that, it just kind of spreads this idea of like, oh, we're gonna build things together as a community, instead of just like complaining on Reddit of like, I don't want to use Microsoft Edge. I don't want to have my updates and all this shit do things on my computer without telling me. And it's like, yeah, no one likes when Microsoft does anything anymore, so why the fuck are you putting up with it? Just do it yourself, bro. It really isn't that difficult, especially these days, good lord. If a dumbass like me can figure out how to make this work and do fucking video editing, like really intense video, like you've seen my fucking bullshit on this video. If I can do this on here, and I'm a dumbass, and I barely graduated college, then you can sit down for 10 minutes and understand how this stuff works and play whatever game you want on here. Or you can chat with your friends on Discord, or you can install something yourself. You can build your own system from the ground up. But that obviously comes with the expectation of you that you need to want to learn as well. People are not going to solve your problems for you. You need to put in the work yourself. It is DIY, so that means you do it yourself. It is obviously not for everybody, But let's be real, if you're still watching this point in the video, if you have sat here for however many minutes, like what, like 10 minutes at this point, of some bald motherfucker just ranting into a 2010 camcorder about basically nothing, I think you have the right mindset for this kind of stuff. Anyway, enough of camcorder mode. Let's go back to the DSLR cam over here. Let's just take this frame and let's just.
It was actually pretty funny. There was one guy in my comment section who commented a while ago who was asking me like, oh, hey, where can I buy this Linux system you're talking about? And I had to basically just be like, bro, it's like Linux is free. Like you can just go get a version of it. You can just get a Linux distro and like install it on your system, and it's completely free. Like you can just do it. And he was almost like taken aback about like, oh my god, it's free? That's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it is pretty crazy. But hold on, I was saying a few words here and there that I wasn't giving any context for. The main word that we're talking about here is distro. So I was talking about downloading Linux to that one guy in the comment section, and I used the word distro. What does that mean? Distro is basically short for the word distribution, and for lack of a better word, it is a flavor of Linux. There's many different flavors, there's many different branches in this just look at this family tree. I'm putting a picture up on screen so that you can see this. Look at how fucking many Linux distros there are. And this doesn't even cover all of them. These are just like the official ones. So you might be looking at this and thinking that, fuck, I have to learn what all of these are, and no, you don't. You don't need to know what every distro is. I only know of like a handful at best, and I've been using this shit for nearly 4 years. Some are more focused on like being general use, some are more focused on niche tasks like gaming, because yes, gaming is a niche computing task. There's some that are built by big groups, small groups, single people. There are gag distros. You get the point. There's a fucking lot of them. But I feel like a lot of this is really easy to get into if you just kind of focus on the 3 main families of Linux distributions. Yes, I know there are many different families and there are many different branches in this family tree, and if I were to cover all of them, we would be sitting here for like 4 hours, so let's just focus on 3, okay? Please, for my own fucking mental health. The 3 main distros you gotta worry about are the Debian-based ones, the Fedora-based ones, and the Arch-based ones. I had funny little anagrams and funny little sayings of like Arch Anarchs and the Fedora Oligarchs, but I couldn't find a fucking good one for Debian. I mean, Fedora is more like the Camarilla if you really get down to it. Like I'm just inserting Vampire the Masquerade shit into this video when it probably like shouldn't even be there. Does anyone in my audience play Vampire the Masquerade? I don't fucking, anyway. I don't know, I mean, this whole video is just me rambling and stimming all over the fucking place and pacing back and forth. So maybe I'm keeping all of this bullshit rambling in. Would that make you fucking happy? Would that make you happy? I'm standing on my couch. This is a weird video. Okay, so after taking a couple of breaths, the main 3 you need to worry about are Debian, Fedora, and Arch. Debians are the kings of stability. They are kind of the old hats of the Linux world. I mean, Arch has been around for forever, and Red Hat has been around for probably even longer than that. But if you want something stable, something unmoving, something, you know, that you know is gonna work every time you turn on your computer, but maybe behind in the latest and greatest features, go with a Debian-based distribution. Now, the interesting thing about this little branch in the family tree is that one of Debian's offspring actually has a family tree of their own. Little old Ubuntu, right down there, right in the garbage where it fucking belongs. That was mean. I shouldn't say that about Ubuntu. They work hard. So you're going to see a lot of distributions and a lot of documentation on Ubuntu-based distros and Ubuntu itself. It's basically like the gateway distro, or at least it has been for a very long time. Now Linux Mint in recent years has been sort of taking up that mantle, so I mean, I don't know. You can go with whatever. The reason I'm clumping them together is because technically they're father and son. So it's easier for me to just go back a little generation and say like, oh hey, there's a bunch of shit here based on Debian, and then Ubuntu is like its own little fucking miasma of documentation. I just said we were only going to be talking about 3 families, and here I go introducing a fucking 4th one. Okay, anyway, let's talk about Red Hat next. So Red Hat is the de facto enterprise Linux distribution, meaning that it is going to run on servers, it's going to run in businesses. It's not, Red Hat on its own is not really intended to be a desktop environment, but the people who do Red Hat also have a desktop variant of that operating system called Fedora. And so you'll see some distros out there that are based on Fedora, like Bazite or Nobara, the gaming distros. Can I get a hell yeah for all my gamers out there? I'm just letting the intrusive thoughts win this video, Jesus. So I would say if you want a balance between new features and the backing of a semi-large company and some kind of stability, I would say go for a Fedora-based distro. I've personally used Fedora and I had a pretty good time with it. My sister is currently on Bazite and my other sister is currently just on Fedora. And we've been having a relatively fine time with all of it. However, there is one other family that I have yet to talk about, and it is the one where I hang my hat, and it is the Arch Anarchs. So Arch is the one where you just want a complete and total fuckery with your computer. If you go with an Arch-based distribution, that can only tell me one thing, is that you hate your free time. Now, Arch-based distributions are a bit more complicated, a bit more manual than your average Ubuntu or Debian or Fedora-based distribution. And there are certainly levels you can go up where it's infinitely more complex. We can talk about Gentoo at some point, or Gentoo, I don't know, who cares? But if you're using an Arch-based distro, then you kind of have a good idea of what you're doing. And so you prefer to have a little bit more control over what your system has, doesn't have, what features you can put in, just how you want more control over your computer software. And that is currently where I live. Like I said earlier, I run Arch on my main PC, and this little guy over here is running Catchy OS. One of the other key differences between an Arch-based distro and other Linux distros is that it is what is called a rolling release distro, whereas Fedora and Debian and all that stuff, those are point release distros. A point release distribution is what you would probably consider to be a fairly normal upgrade path for an operating system. You go from version 1 to version 2 to version 3, 4, 5, and so on. There are big updates that have a lot of new features and, redo a bunch of code. Like, it's a traditional update system. That being said, there are still like security updates and shit on the regular. Do people still say on the regular? I don't fucking know. But in terms of features and new stuff, like, oh, that's gonna be in the point release. But a rolling release, man, you're just getting updates left and right. Like, every day you're getting a new kind of update for something. As soon as a new component is done, bam, it's getting shipped out, and it's in your upgrade booth right now. But of course, that doesn't mean that you should be updating every day, because that can cause compatibility issues, and the fucking dependency hell you can get in on Arch is just insane. I would not recommend an Arch-based distro to a complete novice of Linux. But it is fun, kind of like living on the edge sometimes. And sometimes that bites me in the ass, and that's not fun. And so the answer to this problem is just to update maybe once a week, maybe once every other week. That way you're still staying relatively up to date on packages, but you more than likely shouldn't run into any big dependency issues. Moral of the story, Linux is cool. I'm glad to see more people are using it. And if you're watching this video, hey, bro, why or sis, or maybe you're a they them. I don't care. Just go try it, bro. There's nothing stopping you. But I do have a couple of important pieces of advice, some issues that I ran into in my 4-ish years of using this garbage. Advice number 1, don't switch cold turkey. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. Make this a slow, incremental kind of a switch, because that's really how you build habits. That's really how you learn things. You do it slowly, incrementally, and you do it every day, and then suddenly you're a master at it. So here's what I did. So you all know that I am a video editor, a content creator. I do a bunch of audio and I do visual work and some other bullshit on the side. I also play a lot of video games. So what did I do? Before I even thought about switching over to Linux, I decided to switch over to software that I knew would work on both Windows and Linux. I switched to DaVinci Resolve instead of Adobe products, because fuck you, Adobe. And then I started using GIMP, but I wouldn't recommend using GIMP. I would recommend going with something like Krita instead. I used GIMP. I cut my teeth on that shit, but you don't suffer through this UI like I did. Like, holy shit, dude. Just go with Krita. It should be fine for the most part. I don't know. Maybe because it is different, your specific flavor of autism will react negatively to it. I don't know, just try, man. So after you switched over to all the software that you know will work in both of the operating systems, then you can start doing some fun shit where you could have, I don't know, maybe a spare computer, a spare PC that you can use it to just kind of fuck around and just do whatever you want on it. And then you can still have your Windows PC in case you need to do like work or like important shit, or you just want to play a game or something. I guess I should briefly mention that. So yes, for the past 3 or 4 years, I have been doing all of my gaming, 100% of it, basically exclusively on Linux-based machines. Have I run into issues with compatibility and like some games just aren't working? Absolutely. I've definitely run into some weird fucking issues that I probably never would have encountered on a Windows-based system. Like if you play any of these games, you're just not gonna play them on Linux. And that's not because the OS can't run the game. It's more so that the anti-cheat software built into the games is just fundamentally incompatible with the operating system. I mean, if you ask me about it, we probably shouldn't even be using any of these kernel-level anti-cheats because they're a blatant overstep by anti-cheat corporations and they just kind of sell you software that actively gimps the performance of your game. But let's talk about that stuff on another day, on another video, because we're here to talk about computers, not video games, okay? What are we talking about? Okay, so after you've spent a little bit of time with your spare machine doing stuff on Linux on here, just kind of fucking around, just vibing it out, seeing what you do and don't like, absolutely. Also, I'm giving you permission to distro hop. Distro hopping is the act of taking all of your software and moving it to a different Linux-based operating system, a different distro. And Linux users fucking love doing that. We absolutely love just seeing like, oh, this one has a different compiler. Let me distro hop for a week. Now, some people are that crazy, others really aren't. I mean, on my main computer, on the main editing rig that I use to make these videos, I've only distro hopped maybe like 3 times at this point. Maybe it's gonna be a 4th time because CatchyOS has really been impressing me. But if we're talking about like laptops and this motherfucker over here and a few other computers I've been using, I've used a decent amount, maybe like 10-ish. Maybe. I want you to be okay with switching over distros because that's kind of how you learn, right? You download something like Linux Mint and you fuck around with it and you realize like, I mean, it's cool that I can do all this stuff with it, but I feel constrained by this. I wish I could just, you know, get a little bit more control over my system. And then bingo bongo, you're overusing an Arch-based distribution and you've written your own fucking compiler. It doesn't really happen that fast, but you get my point, right? You're allowed to fuck up and start over again and start from a clean slate and experiment and do a bunch of other shit because that is what the entire fucking point of this community is about. It's about learning and growing and sharing your information and your knowledge, and that is exactly what I am doing right now. I feel like my face is very red, but the viewfinder on the camera is so far away that I can't really tell how red I am. So I might be a fucking tomato. 2 more pieces of advice before we wrap this up. The first one is to not just don't listen to every single fuckwit you talk to on the internet because some people are going to be wrong. Yes, it is true that there are a lot of people out there who have way more knowledge on a topic than you do, but that doesn't mean they're always going to be right, and that doesn't mean they're always going to be right about it in a polite way. This is not an exclusive phenomenon to the Linux community. There are equally insane discussions that I've seen from equally insane communities. But just know that it is out there, and you're allowed to just kind of do what you want and just kind of vibe around and kind of go at your own pace. And that kind of circles into the second piece of advice that I have. It's just, like, you just have fun with it, dude. Like, they're really, like, it's not serious. You don't need to learn Linux right now. I mean, it would certainly help you if you learned right now, but you don't need to, like, cram and study like it's a fucking school exam. You're allowed to go at your own pace. You're allowed to learn at the pace that you feel is comfortable. You're allowed to fuck up. I know that if you're around my age, you would know that public schools and a lot of modern society ingrain it in your brain to never fuck up, never make mistakes, always get it perfect once, and if you're not perfect right away, then fuck you, you deserve to die. That was a bit extreme, but you get my point. So yes, I have been having fun. I'm glad a lot of you are having fun as well. And if you have your own little bit of story or lore that you would like to share with the rest of the class, feel free to do it in the comments section. It's right down there. It's just begging for you to tell your own story down there. I'm not comment farming. Don't pay attention to that. Just Isn't it fucking crazy that they put roll in this game? I have no idea if you can properly see what game this is, but yeah, you can play as Mega Man and fucking roll on a team in Tatsunoko versus Capcom of all games.
Okay, the video is finally done. Thank you very much for watching. This one has been in the cooker for a very long time. I'm so fucking done with this video. I'm ready to talk about anything else. So, anyway, in the last video I started doing album like recommendations and stuff like that, and I think that that's really fun. I think that's really cool. And I have 3 albums again that I want to recommend. 2 of which are going to be really interesting. The theme for them this time is more avant-garde, more not difficult to listen. One of them's pretty difficult to listen to. I mean, you'll see what I mean when we get to it. But it's going to be really fun because 2 of the albums we're talking about are on vinyl. And I really like vinyl, and I really like listening to vinyl and collecting it and all that. It's a lot of fun. So we're just going to go ahead and jump into the first one. And the first album recommendation is Chaser by Femtanol. This one is probably the most difficult to listen to out of all of the albums I have to recommend here, because it's just kind of noise at times, but I really fuck with it, and I really fuck with the vibe of this album. It's definitely not something I'm gonna be listening to if I'm like trying to relax or do work or something, but this is avant-garde shit. This is difficult to listen to. This is really weird, And I like really weird music. I'm a really big fan of it. Speaking of really weird music, concept albums. Concept albums are a really interesting topic to me, where it's just like an album that tries to tell a story and has like a broader meaning throughout all the tracks on the album. I think that that's really fun. One of my favorite concept albums, scratch that, one of my favorite albums, period, is this one. It is Buckethead Land 2. By Buckethead. This is a concept album that is basically describing what it's like to be at Buckethead Land, which is an amusement park that was made by Buckethead himself, and he's got like bucket bots that are staffing different things, and each of the roller coasters is a track on the song. Not each of them, but a lot of the roller coasters in the amusement park are tracks on here. There's a whole section of it that is modeled after Colma, California, which, if you're not familiar with that, it is a city where the dead outnumber the living. Quite literally, it is a city of graveyards, and there's really big inspirations from shit like 60s to 80s horror movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Friday the 13th or whatever, and it's just very much like, if I just show you like what opening this thing looks like, it's like you can just kind of tell that this is, something's kind of wrong. Something's kind of wrong with this album, but it's very, very good. Some of the tracks are some of my favorite music of all time, but then other ones tell a story about a kid maybe who works in a slaughterhouse. And stuff happens there, and I'm not gonna spoil it for you. I really want you to listen to this album. I think it's really, really fucking fun. But yeah, one more album I have to recommend to you. This one I don't have on vinyl, simply because I don't think you can really do this album on vinyl. I mean, you could, but it would defeat the purpose of the album. So I'm gonna just put the album art right here. This is None of This Is Real by DJ Roswell. This is a fascinating album to me because the point of it is you're supposed to listen to it on shuffle. Literally, all of the tracks are named the exact same thing, and the point of it is you're gonna play the first track, and then you're gonna hit shuffle, and there's gonna be a crossfade on all the songs, and they're all gonna fade into each other, and they're all going to bleed in. And that's what the album is you get a new experience of the album every time you listen to it. So it's very much a digital-only kind of thing. You could press that album into a vinyl or like a cassette tape or whatever, but it would... I mean, it's good music, beyond the gimmick of it being played on shuffle, but it just kind of goes against, like, what the artist's intention is for the album, where it's like you're supposed to listen to this on shuffle, and I think that's what makes it very interesting to me. I'll have links to everyone's Bandcamps in the description down below. You can see DJ Roswell and Fentanyl and Buckethead, because yes, Buckethead actually does have a Bandcamp where he posts an ungodly amount of music. If this is your first time ever hearing about Buckethead, oh man, I highly recommend listening to Project Little Man or Hold Me Forever. Those are the two albums that I would recommend for like people who are just starting off with Buckethead and you want something like still avant-garde but still like more listenable, you know what I mean? But then again, if you listen to shit like fucking Chaser, then you should be fine with Buckethead Land 2. Anyway, that does it for this video. I wanted to keep this section short because I'm very tired and I desperately want to be done editing this video. Thank you to everyone who was putting up with my absence for the longest time. I'm still trying to work on my mental health and my habits on work and life and all that garbage. It's really hard to do, especially in this day and age, but you know, we're working through it. We're working through it. So I hope that camcorder mode is a fun thing that I can do with all of my videos going forward, and I hope that the next video is a smaller scope, that I can just fucking talk about the thing. There's the scope creep kills creativity, and it happens every single time. Thank you again to the members for supporting me directly. If you want to become a member, you can do all the stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. I really should be doing this stuff more in the middle of the video instead of the end, because hardly anyone watches to this point in the video. But thank you if you do. If you want to just leave this video on in the background, that is chill with me. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna go take a nap now. Like, I'm fucking tired, dude. Have a good one, everybody.